The summer sun hung high above the old school courtyard, casting long golden rays across the familiar brick walls where laughter had once echoed every afternoon. I almost turned my car around before stepping out. 15 years had passed since graduation, and I wasn't sure I belonged there anymore. Life had scattered all of us into different cities, different dreams, and different versions of ourselves. Yet something inside me kept whispering that I needed to come. I had no idea that before the afternoon was over, a little girl would look into my eyes with heartbreaking certainty, and a single sentence would reopen a chapter of my life I thought had been closed forever. Some reunions celebrate memories. Ours would become the beginning of healing that none of us expected. Before we continue this emotional journey, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to the Kindness Project if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances. Your support helps us bring more heartfelt stories to life. My name is Rowan Mercer, and by every outward measure, I had built a successful life. I owned a small architecture firm, lived in a quiet neighborhood, and spent most evenings alone with work that never truly filled the empty spaces in my heart. Long ago, there had been someone who made every ordinary day extraordinary. Her name was Celeste Rowan. She had been the brightest person in our graduating class, the kind of woman whose laughter could make strangers smile without knowing why. We had cared deeply for one another, but life moved us in different directions before either of us found the courage to admit what we truly felt. She accepted a scholarship overseas, and I stayed behind to care for my aging father. We promised to stay in touch, but promises often fade beneath the weight of years. The reunion buzzed with cheerful conversations, familiar faces, and photographs comparing youthful dreams with present realities. I smiled politely, shook countless hands, and listened to stories about careers, marriages, and children. Yet my eyes kept searching every corner of the room for someone I secretly believed would never come. Then, as the afternoon sunlight spilled through the entrance doors, everything around me seemed to fall silent. She walked in wearing a simple navy dress instead of the bright colors she once loved. Her smile was gentle, but carried a sadness that could never be hidden. Beside her walked a little girl with soft curls, holding tightly to her mother's hand. Before I could gather my thoughts, the child noticed me across the room. She released her mother's hand, walked directly toward me with complete confidence, and looked up with wide, innocent eyes. Then she quietly said that Mommy had told her I would come. Every sound disappeared. My heart pounded so loudly that I barely noticed the people around us. Celeste slowly approached, her eyes already filled with tears she had been holding back for far too long. The sparkle I remembered had become something quieter, something shaped by pain instead of excitement. Around her finger there was no wedding ring, only the faint mark where one had once rested. It didn't take long for me to understand. Her husband was gone. Over coffee away from the crowd, she gently unfolded the years I had missed. She had married a kind man named Adrian who loved both her and their daughter deeply. They had built a peaceful life until a sudden accident stole him without warning only 11 months earlier. Since then, every morning had become a battle between surviving and pretending to be strong for her little girl, Maris. She confessed that before the reunion, she almost stayed home, but something kept telling her she needed to come because there were people from her past who reminded her that life could still hold goodness. As the afternoon continued, Maris followed me around the reunion garden, asking endless questions about birds, flowers, and old photographs displayed along the hallway. Children have an extraordinary gift. They notice kindness before anything else. Somewhere between helping her reach cookies from the refreshment table and pushing her gently on the old playground swing behind the school, I realized I hadn't genuinely laughed in years. Weeks after the reunion ended, our conversations continued. Sometimes they lasted 5 minutes. Sometimes they lasted hours. There were no dramatic declarations or impossible promises. There was simply friendship returning to a place where time had once interrupted it. I visited museums with Maris, repaired a broken bookshelf in Celeste's house, and helped plant flowers that Adrian had always wanted to grow in their backyard. I never tried to replace the man they had lost. His photographs remained proudly displayed in their home because love does not disappear when someone leaves this world. Real healing makes room for treasured memories instead of erasing them. Slowly, the neighborhood began seeing changes that even we barely noticed. Celeste smiled more often. Maris stopped waking from nightmares every night. I found myself leaving work early because I finally had people waiting for me at the dinner table. The emptiness each of us carried alone became lighter when shared together. One afternoon, nearly a year after the reunion, Maris handed me a drawing she had made. It showed three people standing beneath an enormous yellow sun with flowers all around them. There were no explanations, only joyful colors that children somehow know how to choose. Looking at that simple picture, I understood something that adulthood often makes us forget. Families are not always formed the way we imagine when we are young. Sometimes life breaks our plans apart only to rebuild them with deeper compassion than we ever expected. If this story is touching your heart so far, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the Kindness Project. Your encouragement helps these stories reach people who may need a reminder that kindness still exists. Special request: before this story ends, please leave a comment with the words, "Love always finds a way." We'd love to know who is watching and believing in second chances with us. Standing once again outside our old school exactly 1 year after that unforgettable reunion, I watched Maris run across the same courtyard where her mother and I had once dreamed about the future as teenagers. The sunlight looked almost identical, yet everything inside me had changed. I had arrived at that reunion expecting nothing more than memories. Instead, I found a wounded family searching for hope, and they unknowingly rescued me from my own loneliness at the same time. Sometimes the greatest miracle isn't that love returns exactly as it was. The greatest miracle is that after unimaginable loss, broken hearts can still choose kindness, open themselves again, and discover that life has quietly been preparing a beautiful new beginning all along.